The bell tolls. The midnight hour is upon us. It's time once again for two internet strangers to discuss the good and evil of the horror genre. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the terror within the Hallow-Holics Anonymous podcast.
Oh, Corey. Wow, now is not a good time. How did you find me?
Google Maps. Listen, Maddy, I know you said not to track you down to your isolated cabin in the woods whenever you decide to periodically disappear for days at a time, but we've got a podcast to record.
You shouldn't have come here. It's too late now. The moon is rising.
Are you wearing contacts?
Let's hurry up and start the podcast.
I'm Corey.
I'm Maddy.
And this is Hallow-Holics Anonymous, a show dedicated to all things horror and occasionally Halloween.
Well, Corey, you've had an eventful week, huh?
Yeah, you could say that.
What's going on, man?
Wait, are you really asking me about my life?
Well, I guess I could skip that. I'm trying to make pleasantries here, but we can just...
No, it's okay. Yeah, I just finished up the first week of my summer camp, and things went smoother than I had planned them to go. There were some hiccups here and there, but normally when session 1 goes smooth, it means session 3 is going to be a nightmare. So things are relatively chill right now, but it's going to go off the rails any minute now.
Would you say they're a bit terrifying there at your camp thing? Would you say that 1 minute they're normal, the next they're monstrous?
Honestly? Oh, I feel so bad. Yes, in a lot of ways, most of my campers can be the sweetest people in the world. They can be wonderful. But then one thing sets them off and they turn into utter nightmares, throwing themselves down bus stairs on concrete sidewalks, punching and biting other campers, fighting counselors. It can get pretty ridiculous. And this is all often augmented by the full moon.
Speaking of full moons, segue, I think werewolf stories have changed in the last decade and a half. Let's take back our beloved monster and remind the world how truly awful it is to tear your loved ones to shreds on a full moon and bathe in the blood of countless victims. A lot of werewolf fans are always waiting for the next great werewolf movie, to quote my mother. We always hope...
She's right.
Yeah, exactly. We always hope around the corner there's going to be another American Werewolf in London, another Wolfman, or even to some degree maybe another I Was a Teenage Werewolf, which is really an underrated drive-in classic staple in my opinion. These creatures aren't cursed men struggling with primitive nature thrust upon them any longer. They're sexy teenagers with chiseled pecs and a furry fetish. Skinwalkers verges dangerously on approaching that territory, actually, but we'll get to that. Let's harken back to the darker nature of the beast first. The monster. The werewolf.
Oh!
Who's that I see walking in these woods?
So what, in your opinion, is the last good werewolf movie you've seen, as recent as you can get it?
A lot of people are going to disagree with me on this because they really didn't like how it was done, but I really enjoyed the remake of Wolfman with Benicio del Toro.
No, so did I. I loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was great. In fact, I enjoyed the director's cut, too.
Yeah, I thought it was really good, and I thought it was... I really didn't... I thought they would shy away from the gore, but that movie was, like, visceral as hell.
Yeah. And Benicio's really good at playing a haunted person. Like, even when he was young, before he looked like he had been through hell and back.
Yeah, I think maybe that dude has some darkness in him that most people don't know about.
And I also really appreciated how they incorporated some of that mythos that didn't come from the original Wolfman, but other werewolf movies at the time. Like the idea of the curse being from this thing in Tibet, you know? I appreciated that. They brought in several different movie myths to that movie.
Yeah, that was cool too. I think that if I was to answer my own question, I would have to say season 1 and 2 of Penny Dreadful.
I couldn't get into that.
The first season's really good. The second season, it starts to like go off the rails a little bit, and the third season is just awful. They keep saying that it was finished when it was supposed to be, but there were too many plot threads lying loose. There was definitely more there than they never got to. But I really like the way they did. What's that guy's name? I keep wanting to say Jason Alexander, but that's so wrong.
Well, I don't remember many characters. There was a Dorian Gray, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was a Dorian Gray, there was a Wolfman, there were vampires, there was all that stuff.
There's Frankenstein's monster.
Frankenstein, yeah, which was really, really, like, he was probably the best character in the entire movie.
From what I recall, I thought he was a show.
Yeah, there was a bride, sorry. There was a bride as well. She was great. But yeah, I think that they pulled off a Wolfman really well in that. But before that, I can't think of anything except maybe the first Underworld and definitely Dog Soldiers. You
know, along the same lines of Penny Dreadful, even though it's definitely not werewolves, I really, really enjoyed Salem.
Were there werewolves in Salem? I haven't watched the last season.
No, there weren't. I really enjoyed how they incorporated magic and stuff. I thought it was pretty gruesome.
I need to finish that series this summer. It was really good.
But before we get on to anything else, and this is going to be a volume-heavy show, listeners, I think it's time to talk about some horror news. So, Marilyn Manson just released his cover of Cry Little Sister, the famous theme song to The Lost Boys. This has had several covers, including an underwhelming one in the sequel, The Tribe, performed by Aiden.
That was terrible.
Oh my god, it was awful. I listened to it, and at least Manson's version didn't make me think of preteens cutting their wrists at Hot Topic. I still can't beat the original Gerard McMahon version, which I would recommend immediately looking up after you listen to Manson's version, because I know you will.
Yeah, just that entire scene, too. I'm not sure, like, I like the song a lot, but I'm not sure I would have liked it as much if it didn't go along with that scene so perfectly. And I actually listened to the Marilyn Manson track today, and I have nothing against the man. I sort of got into goth and death rock right before Manson sort of came about in the scene, and he caused kind of a rift between the old death rock, like the Christian Death and the Bauhaus guys and the Sisters of Mercy guys. Like, those guys were like, this is goth, and then Marilyn Manson came, and all these new people started getting into this newer goth, and it started the whole goth metal thing. So there was a split there.
Well, he's the Madonna of goth when you get right down to it.
I never felt really interested one way or another in the like music wars of the goth scene. So like, I listened to him. I dug some of his stuff. I think that one remix album, Smells Like Children, was really good. And so I gave the song a chance, and I didn't hate it, but I say this all the time, but why remake something that's already perfect?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I really did like in the movie, The Lost Boys, I really did like the cover they used for People Are Strange, but...
Yeah, who did that? Was that like Echo and the Bunnymen?
Echo and the Bunnymen, you were correct, sir.
Yeah. Echo and the Bunnymen's a great band. One of the sort of like that fringe goth alternative sort of. They were kind of goth adjacent, and I really, they're a daily listen. I listen to them all the time.
There's nothing about that soundtrack that doesn't rock. Even the sax man, I love his song. Oh, man.
I was super mad about I think it was The Tribe. It might have been one after where they showed him and he was fat.
Yeah, like Tim Capello is not fat at all still.
And that wasn't even a joke that needed to be made. Like, why mock like one of the most memorable parts of the only good movie of all those sequels? I mean, it's a great movie. The sequels destroyed that. I'll still watch it and pretend they don't exist, but like, there's no need to be like, oh, look at how this guy aged, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's stupid.
Just not a good movie. It's just not a good movie. There's so much wrong with it. I hate every character in that movie.
Yeah, me too. And that's the one I was excited for, too, because Kiefer Sutherland's kid's in that, right?
No, his half-brother.
Oh, is that the one before?
I don't know about his kid. I know his half-brother was in the sequel, The Trial.
Oh, that must be what I meant then. Never mind.
Yeah. Do you have some horror news you'd like to share?
Yeah, I do. So Trent Reznor dropped the new 9 Inch Nails EP this week. It's 6 songs. I listened to it today on and off. I didn't really listen to it enough to make an opinion. It's okay. Mm-hmm. It's weird. It's kind of more of it's got sort of a jazz feel to it over his normal. He's got a very distinct way he does percussion. So that's still happening, and some of his analog sort of synthy stuff is still there. But it's got this sort of jazz thing going on over it. It reminds me a lot of the stuff he did when he was working with David Lynch. And it reminds me of, if you take some of Bowie's later stuff and mix it with 9 Inch Nails sort of mid-career stuff, you get this album. So I think eventually I'm going to enjoy it, but I think I'm going to have to be in the mood to listen to it.
I feel that way sometimes about Tom Waits. I have to be in a Tom Waits mood, but when I am totally for whatever album I'm listening to.
Yeah, the only album I can listen to by Tom Waits at any time is Closing Time. I mean, it always makes me want to cut my wrists, but I can listen to that album all the time.
Well, have you listened to Rain Dogs?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, of course you have. I love that album.
The piano has been drinking. Yeah, it's a great song.
Tom Waits is just never afraid to go all the way out there and then further.
Well, I think that's because he's already all the way out there.
Pretty much.
He doesn't have far to go.
So, American Horror Story is going to have a crossover season. The Coven is going to cross over with The Murder House, which was the first and best of all the storylines, in my opinion. The question now is whether the characters are going to understand that they all look exactly alike.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for this. I'm curious to see how they do that. Mm-hmm. And who comes back.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting question, because I can't imagine they'll get most of the more minor characters from the first season.
Well, what's-her-name is done. She's not doing him anymore. Mm-hmm. The older lady who was great. Mm-hmm. And is it Dylan McDermott?
Yeah, Dylan McDermott, yeah.
Yeah, he hasn't been in there in a while. He's been replaced by that guy who thinks bags are beautiful in that Kevin Spacey movie. I don't know.
We talked about him in the last episode. You don't remember?
Yeah, that doesn't mean I remember. That was weeks ago, and I haven't slept in like a week and a half.
That's a good movie, okay? And that monologue about the bags is a beautiful monologue. Why do people always make fun of it? He makes good points.
It's a dumb monologue, but it is a good movie.
All right. Well, drum rolls, please. Paramount has just announced the star to their upcoming thriller, Body Cam, Mary J. Blige. I have absolutely no clue if this is a good thing. But Family Affair is catchy, I guess. That's the only song of hers I've ever actually heard. Anyway, the spec script was floating around Hollywood for a while and has seen a couple of rewrites, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'll be optimistic.
If this is going to be a movie about a cop's body cam during some horrific event, I'm going to hate it.
It is.
Oh.
It's called Body Cam. What do you think it's about?
It's going to be like a boring Hardcore Henry. Now, I haven't seen Hardcore Henry. That movie could be boring too, but it doesn't seem boring. This seems boring.
I think if anything, it's just going to try to profit off of the hype from Get Out. But
I can see that.
Yeah. As long as they don't ruin Shopping Mall.
We'll just have to wait and see.
Still have strong opinions about that one.
Yeah, me too.
That's it for my news. Anything else left to share, Corey?
Yes, I have one more piece of news. I've talked about this, I think, every show for the last 3 or 4 shows. In Will They Won't They news, the bad game I can't stop talking about, Agony, has changed their mind again. Last show, I was talking about how they decided they were going to do the Agony unrated patch and they were going to release all the stuff that the censors don't want you to see, which is basically more gore, more boobs. So yeah, they've changed their mind again, and they've canceled the unrated version of the game, citing financial, technical, and legal reasons.
They couldn't come up with unrated scenes to write.
Well, supposedly that stuff's done and just sitting on the cutting room floor. They're supposedly just putting it back in. But I mean, that being said, this has been so back and forth with these guys that I have a feeling in a week I'll be reporting that they're going to release it again.
Only time will tell. While I would like to move on to the game, there's a few other things we need to discuss first.
Yes, I think we should start with... No, you know what? Let's do Horror Pack first. And then Coffin Box.
Horror Pack? And then Coffin Box?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for this month's Horror Pack. So this month is another keeper. I will not be canceling my service, even though times are tough. Hansel and Gretel Get Baked.
Oh, I've heard about that one.
Yeah, it's teenage siblings Hansel and Gretel are shaken out of suburbia where an intense new marijuana strain named Black Forest takes Los Angeles by storm. When Gretel's stoner boyfriend mysteriously disappears while on a run to buy more drugs, the siblings follow the breadcrumbs to the house of a little old lady, played by Laura Flynn Boyle, so it stands to be at least slightly crazy.
I think I remember reading a review that said this movie was better than it deserved to be, so you might be pleasantly surprised.
Now, who has a green thumb? When the seemingly sweet woman turns out to be a drug-dealing, drug-growing evil witch who cooks and eats her wasted patrons for their youth, it's bake or get baked for Hansel and Gretel. The siblings must save their friend and each other from a gruesome death, or they will surely face the last high of their lives.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, pot movies are like hit or miss with me. It's whatever. I'll give it a shot eventually. I have such a horror pack backlog, it's not even funny. All right, next up we've got The Editor. I feel like you might have heard something about this. I don't know.
I've tried watching it.
Oh, no, that's not a good sign. I almost watched it last night, but I got too tired. This one is Ray Sisko was once the greatest director the world has ever seen. Since a horrific accident left him with 4 wooden fingers on his right hand. I don't know why I find that so funny. He's had to resort to cutting pulp films and trash pictures. When the lead actors of the film he's been editing are murdered, Ray is fingered as the #1 suspect. Ta-da-nch. Blah, blah, blah. Bodies continue to pile up, and this is absurdist giallo thriller. Oh, I don't know how I feel about that. Ray struggles to prove his innocence, and he learns the secret truth lurking behind the scenes.
I mean, that description is pretty much basic, like cut and paste giallo, so...
Yeah, I mean, it says functioning as a straight-up send-up of Dario Argento, Mario Bava.
Mario Bava.
Yeah, functioning as a straight-up send-up of Dario Argento and Mario Bava and the cinematic sorcerers of the 70s slasher films. Canadian horror comedy The Editor is a charming tribute to the unsung classes of giallo, an Italian subgenre known for its gory and gruesome erotic horror.
You know a movie's good when it has to define what it's talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's also known for its beautiful shadowy lighting and picturesque camera work. Yeah, it's okay, but apparently gore is the most important thing we're going to talk about here. So I'm not going to read the synopsis of this because if you haven't seen it by now, you're not going to watch it anyways. I also got Devil.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good...
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yep, bunch of cats trapped in the elevator. Devil might be there.
Yeah.
Hilarity ensues. And finally, the piece de resistance of this month. And actually, it's really, really good. I got Pieces.
Oh, Pieces. Now that is pretty much giallo.
Yeah. It's a horror. It's actually their horror pack limited edition Blu-ray. So there are not many of these. I'm totally going to open it and watch it because I'm not one of those guys, but I'm pretty stoked about it.
Yeah, that one's a bit of a slog to get through, but it's got some memorable little moments.
I love it. I had it on VHS a million years ago. I had a neighbor who was switching from VHS to Blu-ray, and that's how I got a copy of Motel Hell. It's how I got Pieces, all kinds of stuff, some of the Halloweens. Should I read the back of this one? Might as well.
Yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
Grindhouse Releasing is proud to present the sickest and most violent of all the early 80s slasher movies. A psychopathic killer stalks a Boston campus, brutally slaughtering nubile young college co-eds, collecting body parts for a grisly and gruesome purpose. Pieces is a wild, unrated gore fest with enough splatter and sleaze to shock the most jaded horror fan.
And you'll never be able to figure out who the very obvious killer is.
Technically, the whole reason we're jaded horror fans is because movies like Pieces don't exist anymore. So if we've already seen Pieces and we're already jaded, it's only going to awaken our nostalgia for movies like Pieces, therefore making us more jaded. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is Horror Pack for this month, the month of June.
And you also recently subscribed to a new Money Pit.
Yes, I took another one for a team. Apparently, Rue Morgue, along with Horror Pack, are putting out a bi-monthly, I think I get these every 2 months, surprise box called the Coffin Box. This one comes with a movie, a t-shirt, some sort of knickknacks, the newest issue of Rue Morgue magazine, and some other stuff. So let's go ahead and go through that now.
I appreciate that it comes with the magazine. That feels like you're really getting your bang for your buck.
Yeah, me too. It's totally worth it just for that. But I got a super cool... And the pictures of these should all be on our blog, too, if you want to see the stuff I got. Because it's all pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a cool t-shirt that I've been wearing way too often. I need to wash it already. It's some sort of comic book art piece of Frankenstein's monster on a table, looking all stitchy and cool, and it's a neon green on a black shirt, so it's pretty dope. I got a very short, possibly self-published book, which fits into today's theme. It's called My Werewolf Neighbor by Jeff Strand. All the back says is, I'm not saying that I thought I was some big hero or anything, but a lot of people would have said, werewolf neighbor? Screw that. I'm not getting involved with something so potentially dangerous. Not me. So yeah, we'll see. I haven't read it yet. It's a super short read. It's actually fairly small print it's about as wide as a comic, a little bit smaller. But yeah, we'll give that a chance eventually. It does come with a movie. It comes with a movie that is never going to be released in Horror Pack. And again, oddly enough, we just talked about this when we recorded last. It was one of my Death Game questions. It came with Rest Stop.
Nice.
Yeah, which is a movie about a chick who's trapped at a rest stop, and there's a stalker, and Joey Lawrence is in it, and terrible things happen to him. And finally, other than the Rue Morgue magazine, which has an article on Hereditary, which I can't read because I haven't seen the movie yet, it also came with a cute little Max Schreck as Nosferatu pin.
That is adorable.
Yeah, I haven't decided if I'm going to open it or just hang it on my wall. I don't care about collector's value. I'm just afraid that if I put it on my jacket, I'll lose it.
Yeah, those pins tend to, break real fast.
Yeah, because I got that crappy back, too. Mm-hmm. But it's a nice pin. It looks like it's sort of melted glass into a metal sort of frame. I don't know what that's called. Yeah, so this is Coffin Box. I'm pretty stoked about it. They just charged me for the next one, so I will be doing this again, I think, in August or September.
And eventually, in October, I'll tell you about my Fangoria.
So, yeah, there you go. Those are my unboxings.
All in all, a pretty sweet month for you, Corey. So, without further ado, I guess it's time to move on. Do you remember who won last time?
Oh, I have no idea. That was so long ago at this point.
Let's just assume it was me.
Yeah, fair enough.
So it's time once more for the Stephen Pre-Memorial Guess That Death Game. Stephen, we'll miss you eventually.
As I like to call it, the Stephen Where Are You Death Game, because I still haven't heard from him. I also haven't looked at Twitter in a while, so...
Dearly not departed, but we don't really know where you are, Stephen.
Right.
This game's for you. All right. So, you might love me or you might hate me for these questions this week, and I'll tell you why when we're done.
Okay.
That rifle from the sporting good department isn't going to do much good on a minion with melting skin unless you've got a silver bullet keychain to back you up.
Hint.
Kevin Sorbo.
Is that movie where he was super right-wing?
No, not really. I don't think he expressed any political opinions.
Okay. Wasn't Bad Wolf, was it?
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was Never Cry Werewolf, a movie I was telling you about recently.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I still haven't watched that.
Basically Fright Night with werewolves.
Oh, cool.
Like
in a good way?
In a fun Canadian movie way. It's like point for point, basically Fright Night.
Oh, right on.
Except Charlie's a girl.
I can dig on that. I'll give it a shot.
All right, 1 point Maddy, 0 points Corey. Corey, let's go.
All right. So I think I know how I want to die. I want to be decapitated faster than the eye can see at a Romani camp.
Van Helsing?
No.
Hint?
Emily Blunt stars.
Underworld? I don't know.
No. Do you give up?
Yes.
The Wolfman remake, dude. We just talked about
I don't remember her name.
That's okay.
As we all know, a werewolf's true enemy isn't the Australian outback, it's the media.
Howling the Marsupials.
Ah, damn. Yeah, I thought I was going to get away with using that one again. All right.
You did your best. Like rock beats scissors, werewolf beats vampire every time.
Van Helsing?
No, you're just going to keep guessing, Val. You always do this.
What's the hint?
Bruce Payne is the antagonist.
Underworld?
No. Pretty sure Bruce Payne isn't in Underworld.
I don't know. I've never actually gotten through Underworld.
No, fair enough.
I remember one terrible werewolf movie, but I don't remember what it's called. I give up.
All right. I can't believe I pulled this one off a second time. Howling 6, The Freaks.
Oh, you suck!
Yeah.
I guess we're both just reusing stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many werewolf movies out there.
That's true. Okay. Yes, he murdered a couple of women and made soap cakes from their breast fat. But you do crazy things when it's your time of the month. There's no reason to put the guy on trial.
The Trial of the Big Bad Wolf?
No, not at all.
Give me a hint.
Julian Sands.
Oh, Julian Sands.
Julian Sands. It's a name that must be whispered.
He makes soap out of people.
Out of breast fat.
Howling whatever, my sister's a werewolf.
No.
I have no idea.
Roma Santa or Werewolf Hunter.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen that one.
It's a good one. It's based on a true story.
So werewolves are real.
Well, no. Well, it's lycanthropy. People believing they're werewolves are.
Never mess with a werewolf with a machine gun. He'll straight up murder your entire crew and feast on their flesh.
American Werewolf in London?
Nope.
They had motorcycles. Okay.
And they weren't really werewolves. They were like weird demon Nazis.
Yeah, but they had wolf masks. Okay, give me a hint.
The main character's name is Lou Garou.
Oh, God, you suck. I don't know. Howling 5.
No. Wolf Cop.
Oh, man! No! I love that one!
Yeah, that movie's super dope. I thought for sure... Okay, I thought for sure Lou Garou was going to ruin that one.
The main thing I remember is about certain things exploding.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
So, when you don't have any silver bullets, just call Scotland Yard. Don't question the logic here.
American Werewolf in London?
No. But you're close.
She-Wolf of London?
No. Do you want a hint?
American London in Werewolf?
No, gosh, that sounds like an awful porn movie.
I know. That's why I said it. Yes, I would like a hint, please.
Universal Pictures, but not the really famous one. Like, not the really famous movie from them.
Yeah. House of Frankenstein.
No.
Yeah, I give up.
Werewolf of London.
Oh, damn it. This werewolf really loves to pull off limbs.
Hint.
This werewolf is kind of rapey.
Well, it's not Dog Soldiers. Howling 2?
No, nor is it Van Helsing.
Well, there's probably a fanfic where the werewolf does get rapey with Van Helsing, let's be honest. It's not American Werewolf in Paris.
No. Oh, no. God, no. Ugh.
Where?
Where?
Yes.
Are you asking me where it takes place?
No, there's a movie called Where. Obviously, that's not the answer.
Yeah.
I give up.
Big Bad Wolf.
Oh, you suck.
Yeah. Have you seen that? It's ridiculous. It's the werewolf, like, talks and quips the whole time. He's like the Freddy Krueger of werewolves.
I couldn't get into that one.
Yeah, it's not very good.
When you can't get Scotland Yard, just get Alan Arkin. I mean, granted, you're in for a hell of a lot of criticism, but he'll get the job done eventually.
This time I feel like it's Werewolves of London.
No.
Alan Arkin. Hint me.
Larry Cohen directs, writes, and produces.
Well, that doesn't help at all. I give up.
Full Moon High.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
And Alan Arkin's son, Adam Arkin, or whatever his name is also in it. It's actually a really funny movie. It's very cheesy. Ed McMahon is in it. It's dumb. So, who won? I wasn't...
Wait, still have one more question.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Dracula died because he fell off a carriage at sunrise.
Van Helsing.
No.
Oh, Dracula versus Frankenstein.
No.
Well,
here's the hint. Lon Chaney does his thing. He's the werewolf in this.
Dracula versus the Wolfman.
No.
Abbott and Costello meet the Wolfman.
No. It's actually worse than all of those.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
House of Frankenstein.
Oh, dang. And you guessed that one earlier.
Yeah. It's so ridiculous. Dracula, like, there's a carriage chase, and Dracula grabs onto the carriage and falls off, and then the daylight happens, and he dies.
Well, I think
that's how Dracula goes out in this movie. It's ridiculous.
Despite our belief that there aren't a lot of werewolf movies, apparently they are, because both of us guessed multiple different films we did not use in this game.
The problem is most of them aren't very good. Like as we will learn when we get to my film, it's really hard to make a decent werewolf movie.
And you love your movie.
We'll talk.
Oh boy. I've got a few things to say about your film, but I guess we can start with mine.
All right. Yours I loved.
Okay.
Absolutely loved it.
You know, I've got a lot to say about this one. Wolfen from 1981. This film was released the same year American Werewolf in London and Howling came out, so it kind of went under the radar. In the gritty concrete jungle of New York, a rich businessman and his wife are slaughtered by an unseen monster after a fancy party and an evening of nose candy. A recovering alcoholic, Detective Dewey Wilson, follows the twisted path to uncovering the source of the murders, along with a trail of diseased body parts to guide him.
What a great... I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but what an absolutely wonderful role for him to play. He's so great in that role.
Mysticism and politics interweave in this odd little thriller with the final question. Is man the apex predator or the prey? I love Albert Finney.
Well, I'm pretty sure that question you just asked is answered at the end of the film.
Well, that depends on how you view it. So, would you believe that this movie suffered a lot of behind-the-scenes issues?
I would believe that.
There were director changes and copious editing and re-editing, reshooting, all kinds of issues. The first director, Michael Woodley, lamented that they couldn't have adhered more strictly to the novel on the nature of the monsters themselves. But get this. Woodley got canned and replaced when he turned in a 4.5-hour cut of this to his producers. He'd fallen behind production by 6 weeks, and the cut he handed in also had several scene-missing sequences. 36 of them.
Wow.
They replaced him with Hitzig, who was given 30 days to do reshoots, and that's also when the Wolf Vision portions came into play. John Hancock had to ultimately do the finishing touches. But, I'm sorry, 6 weeks over schedule, and you turn
still
in,
without your scenes.
Yeah, and not only are you missing 36 scenes, 36 sequences, you turn in a 4.5-hour cut. How do you not know that your producers are not going to be happy with you?
Maybe he was trying to get out of a contract.
Well, he seemed like he had a lot of faith in what he was doing, and you can certainly see the artistry in this film. But,
no doubt.
But Michael Woodley he was known for directing Woodstock. He was a documentary maker. He was not a regular film director. And it kind of shows with some of the pacing in this movie.
Yeah, with the pacing and a lot of the way the camera follows
Yeah.
the main characters, yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of times you find yourself distanced from the characters and from the point of view of the monsters tracking them. Mm-hmm. It's a solid cast, though.
Oh, it's a great cast. Gregory Peck,
Albert Finney, Gregory.
the dude who was Gregory Hines.
Gregory Hines. Yeah, I was like, I don't remember Gregory Peck. Edward
Gregory
James Olmos.
Yeah, when was this done in reference to Blade Runner? Because he looks so much younger in this than he does Blade Runner. I think Blade Runner was like late 80s.
Yeah, this was 81. So
yeah, man. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
but there were also a lot of issues people had with Edward James Olmos in this playing a Native American.
Because he's Mexican. Latino.
Yeah. But I thought he did a really phenomenal job. And I'd like to point out that there's far more ridiculous choices made in other movies. Like Soul Man.
Yeah. Oh, don't invoke Soul Man.
If you say Soul Man 3 times, he'll pop up in your mirror.
Every time you say Soul Man, a white guy gets punched for a bad decision. That's...
Every time you say Soul Man, a white guy starts singing Mammy.
Perfect. Oh, God, Soul Man. Oh, I don't even want to think about that. Another thing I thought that was pretty cool about this film is that it kind of shows you a glimpse of gritty New York pre-Giuliani cleanup. And that's an interesting time capsule in and of itself. I was thinking the same thing. Like those shots from the air of just, it looked like a war zone. What was that? That was Brooklyn, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I think it was Brooklyn, and everything was just leveled. It was completely abandoned. It was so like, I don't know. It was so cool to see that and to know that like New York was that bad at one time. And
even then though, in those shots, they found a way to make this look beautiful and wild. Mm-hmm. And it was just concrete, old buildings, graffiti, wire, crime. It looked gorgeous.
Yeah, and it managed to work perfectly for the Godwolf's hunting grounds, too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because it was this empty sort of concrete jungle where the unsuspecting and the weak and downtrodden would wander to. Mm-hmm. Which is exactly what a wolf would be preying on.
So, this was based on a book of the same name, The Wolfen by Whitley Strieber. And he also wrote The Hunger, which was wonderfully adapted. Strieber,
the David Bowie, Susan Sarandon mm-hmm. Hunger?
Yeah. And Strieber did co-write the script for this, and he also co-wrote the script adaptation for The Hunger as well.
Oh, cool.
So you can definitely see also the improvement in his writing with the other film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is one of those movies where I can't believe it took me so long to watch. It's been on my radar for 25 years. Ever since I got into horror, I knew Wolfen existed. And I never watched it until a week ago. And, God, it was so much fun. It does have pacing issues, but all the characters are so real, and they all have these weird flaws and are just goofy. Even the wolf vision. Normally when they pull gimmicks like that, I hate it, but it worked for this. It added to the tension, especially when they were on the hunt.
That was before Predator, so this predates the Predator heat vision.
Yeah. It also has one of my favorite actors, and you may have already mentioned him by name, but I always forget his name. It's the guy from Lord of Illusions.
Tom Noonan.
Yeah, Tom Noonan. I absolutely love that guy. He did a great piece on, and I really hate to give this guy any sort of notoriety at the moment, but he did a really amazing piece on that show Louie, where he played a dude who would go talk to children forensically about the crucifixion and what Jesus went through.
Jeez.
It was the most brutal depiction of a crucifixion I've ever heard. Like, he went into scientific detail about the pain Jesus felt up on that cross. It was intense. I recommend you check it out. It's brutal.
That sounds like a lovely way to spend my afternoon.
Yeah. But yeah, and it was in a comedy show. It was ridiculous. But yeah, I love that guy. I'm glad he was in there.
Who stood out to me, other than obviously Albert Finney, I think they were all great in their roles, was Gregory Hines. His little lecture on heads and the French Revolution, when we're introduced to him, is such a nice little dark moment,
Yeah, and there was a payoff with that too, with the captain.
Yeah, but I am surprised that Albert Finney's character isn't a lot fatter. I swear he's eating every 5 seconds in this film.
Yeah, he really is. Like a lot of eating in this movie. Well, and that was a big joke back then in about recovering drug addicts and alcoholics, that what the drugs and alcohol did to your body made you want sugar. Mm-hmm. So the only addiction they had left when they couldn't drink or do drugs anymore was to eat sugary foods. So that's why they all gain weight. And that's why you always see recovering alcoholics eating in movies. And to this day, it still happens. You always see people eating pie in restaurants. And that's where that comes from.
Well, this, the pacing of this movie, it was a struggle. And we can't talk about Wolfen without talking about the pacing.
True.
This is not a movie you can watch for the first time in one sitting. You have to work your way up to it.
Yeah, I didn't, now that you say that, it took me 2 sittings. I started it one night and I finished it the next morning when I woke up.
The heat vision we had talked about earlier was actually, those choices, it was designed by Garrett Brown, who invented the Steadicam.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. I thought that was a fun fact there.
Yeah.
But back to Tom Noonan, yeah, it's not often your scientist character is creepier than your monster.
Yeah, creepier, but still like a good-hearted dude. Mm-hmm. Like they were definitely setting him up to be part of the mystery, and I think they did that well. Just because I know these movies so well, I knew that he was just a red herring that was going to die eventually, but... Mm-hmm. And it was hard to see Gregory Hines die. Like, that was the other thing. You actually gave a shit about these characters because they were actually so humanized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like when Gregory Hines, spoilers here, I'm sorry if you're more than 30 years too late, but when he dies, it's an upsetting moment because not only is he's kind of the comedy in the story, but you just expect him to make it out.
Yeah, and you see it in the detective's face, too, when he wanders into the Native American bar. Like, you just see how crushed and destroyed he is, and he just sits down, and that's when he demands the answers, because he's a believer now, or at least well on his way to being a believer.
And I think that moment with those Native Americans in the bar is a really good one. It's a one-sided conversation, it's a speech, but it feels like a second-to-final battle. It feels like they're fighting each other.
It was told so well, and the fact that he walked in there and nothing was really said. He just walked in there, sat down, and they knew that he was ready to hear this. I thought that was a really subtle way to lead into that too. I thought that was great.
Yeah, and that whole moment, it's a little broken, it's a little cruel, and it's sort of like the message is turn a blind eye because you can't fight something stronger than yourself. You can only live with it.
Right. And can I spoil the end a little bit?
Spoil the whole thing, because you can't talk about Wolfen and have a meaningful conversation without spoiling the ending here.
That's true. I really like the fact that these are Native American gods in wolf form, essentially, so there's no way. You're not beating these things. You've just got to submit. And that's what the main character at the end learned as he's destroying the model. I mean, honestly, I don't know what good that's going to do because he's destroying a model, but the development is still on. But I mean, it was a symbol, and the symbol worked. But yeah, the fact that they put down their guns, he destroyed this thing. The wolves understood that he understood what they were now, and they just went back to continue what they were doing. I thought that was really cool the way they did that. Normally, these movies would have ended with some big battle where the wolves are all dead or the people are all dead even. But no, this one just like, all right, damage is done, lessons learned, let's all go our separate ways.
I really appreciated, actually, even in that final sequence, I appreciated the significance of the wind chimes and the sound sculptures. I kind of wanted more of that throughout the film because they kept nodding towards it. The mirrors, the reflections, the music of those wind chimes and nature. But I feel like we didn't quite have enough of it, to really solidify that element of the atmosphere in the film.
Yeah, those wind chimes in the beginning were absolutely beautiful too. I wonder if I highly doubt those still exist. They seem simple enough to make. I may end up building a pair of those. They were so cool.
Well, I believe some of those were actually by a famous artist at the time.
Yeah, I figured that too, but I figured New York moves art around so often they're not there anymore. That was a long time ago.
Probably, yeah. A lot of the deaths in this are pretty artistic, especially the opening death when you see the wolf go for the wife's throat. You see just the pearl necklace being snapped, the blood flying through the air like paint splashing onto a backdrop. It was an interesting choice, and you can tell just from that moment alone that the director was not a horror film director. Given the very, very, very political undertones in this movie, I think it's ripe for a remake if it's done right. You got to find a good balance between smart and good pacing with action and That's a really rarely accomplished feat.
True, but the hard thing about remaking this movie would be that so many of those shots can't be done anymore. Like, you can't, like, all that stuff on top of the bridge, everybody was really up on top of that bridge.
Well, I'm not saying to try to remake those moments in and of themselves. I'm trying to say remake something else. Bring something else to it. And even though you can't get shots like that anymore, speaking of shots like that, there are so many wonderful bird's eye view aerial shots in this that would be completely done with CGI now.
Oh, for sure.
And it's so breathtaking to see the real thing.
Yeah, especially considering, like we said in the beginning, New York doesn't look like that anymore. There's the barren wastelands aren't really as big if they're there at all. And we still, like, the towers are obviously not there. And what's there is very different now, and you still get to see there. So even as a time capsule for the city itself, it's nice to still be able to see aerial images of a city that no longer exists.
Well, there's one place we could move this to.
Where?
Detroit.
Yeah, that's true.
Again, like, it's a multiple sitting kind of film, but I'm glad this show finally motivated me to watch the whole thing, because I certainly appreciate it now more than I have before. Mm-hmm. It's a movie that stops just short of being great.
I don't know. I thought it was great. This is now on my buy list, and I'm pretty picky when I buy movies unless they're sent to me anonymously.
Probably Gregory Hines' character is more respectful towards the bodies in this movie than you ever see any kind of forensic doctor, mortician, whatever, in any movie act. Though I'm pretty sure he still eats.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just a trope everybody does in morgues. I just think everybody eats a sandwich. That's what you do. At least in this one, they didn't rest it on a corpse chest. That happens a lot. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they did. I forget. When
Albert Finney pulled out, like, his bag of cookies, I really wanted, like, up out of the corner, I wanted him to also pull out, like, a cup of milk out of nowhere.
Yeah.
All right, now that we've talked about Wolfen. Look, this next one is all your fault, sir.
Yeah, this is my fault. I brought this on myself. And I'm really, really hoping that I can spread my misery to the listeners.
I would like to say before you start that you can always tell who the villains are in movies like this based on how much mascara they're wearing.
Yeah, very true. I chose, and I don't know why I decided to. I've seen this movie like 4 times, and I don't know why. This would be like... Oh my God,
you have no...
Yeah, I don't know. It's a terrible movie. Anyway, so, picture this, ladies and gentlemen. Once upon a time in Hollywood, California, in a dark writer's room, a man in a leather jacket enters, looks around the room with a tough attitude and says, "Hey, you fellas want to make a bad version of Near Dark with werewolves?" Yeah? Yes? Then do I have an idea for you? It's called Skinwalkers.
Oh my gosh.
I guarantee you that's how that went. Some, like, tough guy, new leather jacket writer was like, we're going to make this Near Dark movie, and the kids are going to love it. Ugh. So, Skinwalkers is a movie about a child who on his 13th birthday will either be Werewolf Jesus or Werewolf Ebola, depending on which type of werewolf you ask. And I hate calling them werewolves because they kind of look more like wolfmen in the sense that every night they look like crappy versions of Lon Chaney on a good day. So I'm going to stick with wolfmen from here on out.
I didn't mind the CGI makeup when it was like full on turning, but you only saw that like once or twice.
Yeah. Once you got to the actual makeup, it was pretty bad. So, yeah. So the big bad biker wolfmen or wolf people, wolf persons. Will anybody even be offended if I say wolfmen? I don't even think anybody will care.
Yeah, the wolfman, the army of wolfmen, and Kim Coates.
Yeah, there you go. Kim Coates didn't even save this movie for, and neither did Rona Mitra, and I love her.
This is just like my relationship with the Nicholson movie Wolf. I keep watching it, and I don't know why.
Yeah. So yeah, it's hard to tell what's going to offend people these days. So I'm going to stick with the big bad biker wolf people.
People, if you identify as a wolf, please get help.
Yeah. First of all, second of all, call in and let us know what you like to be referred to as. All right, so the big bad white biker wolf people want to kill the kid because they think he's going to end their super fun, constant hunt for victims. Because in this movie, if you feed on a human, you become addicted to them and have to kill everyone all the time. It also turns you into a biker. I imagine they issue you some leather and a starter bike on day one after dinner.
But designer leather jackets.
Yeah. Like, here's your cool pre-distressed leather jacket, and you can ride on this Honda 250 until we can kill somebody and get you a real chopper.
Yeah, like I have a note here that says, so these characters want to embrace their inner nature, right? Why are they in designer clothes?
Yeah. So the good wolf people have been hiding this kid all these years in hopes that he will usher in a new era of wolf person, peace in the world, or something like that. It's not super clear what they're doing with him. Because the whole movie, nobody knows what this kid's gonna do. They just know he's gonna do something. They've been doing a pretty good job of hiding him up until someone forgets and films their high school letter jacket in a video sent out to the other good wolf people that want to check up on the kid, because there are all these little like communes of wolf people. So they send out this VHS to be like, hey, the kid's still doing good. We're still on point for his 13th birthday. No worries. But this is ruined by some dude's letter jacket. Like, see, the dude who owned the jacket wasn't even in high school anymore. Like, we get it, dude. You peaked. It's time to let it go. This whole movie is your fault, dude. Everyone you love is going to die because you couldn't forget that one touchdown you made in 11th grade. This is ridiculous.
So, like, I remember the marketing. This was in theaters. Why does it feel like just a slightly better made-for-TV Canadian movie?
Yeah, I have a little bit to say about that in a few minutes. We'll get to that. I didn't go quite as long on my summary for this one because it would make me want to die if I did. So the big bad biker wolf people find the video in a cabin while they're torturing some other good wolf people and figure out what town he's in because of this jacket. It's the inciting incidents in jacket, Maddy. It drives me nuts.
Well, there have been worse inciting incidents. Like, what was the inciting incident in The Big Lebowski?
Peeing on a rug?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, good point.
That would be a better, like, inciting incident for this movie, though.
And it would make sense, too, the whole marking of territory. Yeah, all right. So, so they figure out where this kid's at, and the head wolf lady in charge sends them off on their adventure, and a half-assed Western gun battle soon ensues. So, like, all of a sudden, everybody downtown is shooting at everybody else because everybody's either a good werewolf or a bad werewolf, and they all keep guns in the post office and hardware store and barber shop and all that.
Real quick, though, I'm sorry to derail this again.
No, derail.
But, I feel like in our future fan sequel episode we eventually do, where we talk about fan sequel concepts, we need to do a sequel to The Big Lebowski where the dude is a werewolf.
Yeah, I'm
He's
down
already
with
halfway
that.
there.
Yeah.
Okay, proceed.
All right. So this causes the good wolf people to run, and now we're in a half-assed chase film across small-town USA.
Oh, God, it's so terrible.
And that's about all I've got for the plot. I don't want to talk too much about this movie because there are no good scenes in this movie. Although there is one standout, and it doesn't stand out because it's good. It stands out because they try to rip off one of the greatest scenes in one of my favorite movies of all time, and they completely blow it. They try to pull the bar scene from Near Dark.
It would have been better if, like, they just tried to rape someone against a pinball, like, machine. That would have been a better send-up.
Exactly. Yeah. So the big bad biker wolf people enter a bar and devour the inhabitants. This would be a cool scene if it wasn't completely devoid of heart and had a decent kill soundtrack. It was just this saccharine ripoff of this super amazing and brutal scene from Near Dark. And as soon as I saw that scene, because that is what sold it to me when I was a kid.
Yeah, I remember watching this.
I was in my 20s. Never mind.
Yeah, I remember watching this scene and thinking, this is the worst dive bar music I've ever heard. Who goes to a dive bar and plays this?
It was awful. Like, they should have at least given us something. Even if it was like Morbid Angel, anything was better than what they played.
At least if it was like Patsy Cline, it would have been fun and ironic.
That's true. Actually, I could have dug on that. That would have made the scene better.
I go out walking after midnight.
All right, so this movie was definitely meant to be a franchise. They introduced characters that were higher up in the biker wolf food chain, and the ending just screamed a sequel with the kid like, okay, I'm just going to blow it for you because I don't care, screw it. So the whole thing happens, like everything gets screwed up, nobody kills the kid, he turns 13, and the main big bad biker wolf bites him and turns into a human again. So the whole deal with
and it's his dad.
And it's his dad. They tell us that early on in the movie. So his dad's cured, and now he's a good guy who has straight murdered hundreds of people and ate them, but he's a good guy again. So we're just going to look past that. So yeah, the kid's got the only blood that cures werewolves, and they got to run and hide from all the werewolves that don't want to be cured, and they're going to cure the good ones. So it's this whole big thing that never materialized, because this movie did so poorly that I'm sure they scrapped any further plans. It made around $1 million during its very limited box office release and made $2.5 million worldwide. I can't find any info on its budget, but I'm sure it was pretty low. But I can't imagine even in such a low budget that those numbers were good enough. I mean, they were obviously not good enough, or we would have seen a Skinwalkers 2 walking through some new skin or something. Electric skin. I don't know.
Okay, I distinctly remember the marketing when this movie was coming out. And it honestly, having watched it now, it seems really odd. It wasn't advertised as a kid's movie, and then it should have been, I think. But then also, almost all of these Skinwalkers are white. Why? Oh, wait, never mind. There's werewolf sex. All right, this movie is officially confused about who the audience is supposed to be.
Yeah, they really were. I do remember, like, they really pushed the near darkness of this movie. When I don't remember if it was in any of the, like, I doubt it was in a tagline of a trailer or anything, but I do remember reading something about, like, oh, this is going to be the near dark of werewolf movies or something. It was definitely not.
I want to say another movie had just come out before this. It was either a werewolf movie, vampire movie. It was a horror film that, like, played on something similar, and I think that's why they tried to market this so hard. I just don't remember what movie it was. Around 2006?
I don't know. I mean, there was an Underworld that came out before this.
Yeah. Well, all I know is that it holds your hand through every plot point. Explains everything.
Yeah.
Like, everything. Every single scene, someone is explaining something to someone. And at some point, if you're thinking of this as a kid's movie, not even kids are that dumb. They don't need every character explaining everything in every scene about everything that's happening.
No,
but it happens anyway.
So on a personal note, I was extremely excited, like I said, when I heard this movie was coming out. I love werewolves and I love Near Dark. It's one of my favorite. It's probably one of my top 10 films. I think it is.
That's an incredible movie.
Yeah. So to say I was disappointed in this film would be an understatement. I was crushed, and I still haven't learned to trust the werewolf Western genre again. Luckily, it's a niche market, and there aren't many movies out there to haunt me, except this one, which I still occasionally subject myself to because I'm a miserable person and often hate my life.
You know, I think the only reason the character, the 13-year-old, was a boy was so the menstruation metaphor wouldn't be obvious. And,
I think so, too.
Yeah, and to avoid sexualizing a 12, 13-year-old little girl, because these sorts of stories have no problem doing that with little girls.
No. So, I mean, that's something. At least they did that. On some technical stuff in this, not much, though, because I didn't care. So James Isaac was the director, sort of. This is the guy who directed Jason X and The Horror Show. He took over the latter after the original director, David Blythe, was fired. This was originally meant to be House 3. It was decided to change its name to The Horror Show in hopes of launching a new franchise. The writer Alan smithied his name out of the project. This should tell you all you need to know. So that has very little to do with Skinwalkers, but it has to do with the director and how terrible he is at directing. So go forth, my children of the night. Watch this film and let me know how much you hate me for allowing you to learn of its existence. I will gain power from your anger and tears.
Watch this film
Skinwalkers.
And send death threats to your Uncle Corey.
Yes, please. Oh, God, I'm an uncle now. I'm getting so old. Oh, Skinwalkers.
This movie just gets me so angry. I just want to, I just want to kill someone. I want to tear into something. Oh, wait. Before that, first of all, if you want to check out the blog, go to hallow-holic.blogspot.com or hallow-holic.wordpress.com.
You can also find us on Twitter at Nowhere23, and you can look us up on Podpedia. We're forced to say that.
And you can email us, Hallow-Holics@outlook.com. Gosh, this was a pretty short episode this week. You know, that...
Maddie, did you just bite me?
Oh, sorry, my bad. I'm going to kill you now.
Oh. See you next week, everybody. Thank you.
That was so stupid.
Yeah, it works.